Good morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. On today's tropical weather outlook, we are talking about the Atlantic with two areas of interest, 99L and 90L. After Aaron is gone, we still have a lot of activity to track in the Atlantic, and let's start off because 90L, one of the two areas of interest we're tracking, is likely on its way to developing and becoming a tropical storm later today. This is the 8 a.m. tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, and they say satellite images, this is associated with 90L here. Satellite images indicate that an area of low pressure has formed about 500 miles south-southeast of Bermuda, and the associated showers and thunderstorms continue to show signs of organization. A tropical depression is expected to form later today or tonight, with further intensification to a tropical storm likely on Sunday, while the low moves northward over the southwestern Atlantic. And we're going to get an aircraft reconnaissance flight in this to investigate to see what exactly is going on. But National Hurricane Center says 100% chance. Not often do they go with this, and usually when they say 100% chance, they are very, very certain that this is going to develop. So here we are. We likely are going to have our next named storm here in the Atlantic very, very soon. In fact, it's more than likely going to happen later today. And they also point out that Bermuda might need to watch out very closely because this will pass close by. And obviously, we'll be monitoring 90L over the next several days for impacts. And then we also have 99L here, which is in the MDR still. And this was the invest about 2 or 3 days ago that looked really good and almost looked like it was about to spin up into a quick tropical storm out here in the eastern MDR and potentially snag a name from the list. But it seems like things are downtrending with this area of interest for now, though. And I say why I say for now in just a little bit, because I don't think the story with this area is entirely done just yet. We might have to watch this, especially as this heads into the Caribbean. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later on. And then let's look at the Eastern Pacific. They have another area to watch here, and we might get another named storm here in the Pacific in the coming days. Here's a satellite image of how things are in the Atlantic right now. We have 90L here and 99L, both producing quite the convective activity this morning. So both are doing pretty healthy. And of course, you see here in the far northern Atlantic the remnants of Aaron, which transitioned into a post-tropical system yesterday and is now just going to be a very, very strong low that will race out and on upward into the northern Atlantic and maybe bring impacts to the UK and Ireland and Iceland over the next several days. So that'll be the main story with Aaron. But beyond that, died yesterday. Quite an incredible storm, and definitely one that we will remember for quite a few years to come. Not necessarily in terms of it having huge impacts, but just the intensity that this thing produced, rapidly intensified into a Category 5. And then, the fact that it was a ginormous storm, especially right off the coast of the East Coast, and was a very close pass to the Carolinas. But now we have to deal with 90L, which is very likely to develop later today. And you can see doing very healthily this afternoon. Lots of convection producing, and we also have quite a vigorous low-level center in here, and it's doing pretty well. Definitely not a lot of wind shear affecting it. There was some dry air, which did get to it yesterday, but it seems like it's mixed all that dry air out today and is now doing very healthy. And just to show you the low-level center, this is the latest AFCAT pass from this morning, and the low-level center is somewhere right in here, and AFCAT was not necessarily able to pick up on it because it did not hit exactly on 90L, but just by the makings of the wind bars and the data that we do have from the AFCAT pass, you could already see there is very likely a very bona fide low-level center in here. Probably enough for 90L to be classified, and just showing you the 850 millibar vorticity without ASCAT, you could see that 90L, this is where it is right here, just north of the islands, quite a very bona fide and circular vorticity signature here on 90L. So it definitely has a very solid low-level center, and because of that, it is very likely to develop later today. In fact, you might even make the argument that it might already be a tropical storm. So how are things going to shape out over the next several days? Obviously, the GFS has 90L here developing, becomes a pretty decent tropical storm, although not a very particularly strong storm, especially compared to several days ago where I think the GFS had this becoming a hurricane. So we're probably not going to expect that, but will probably be yet another named storm to cross off the list for the 2025 hurricane season. And then that kind of lasts a little bit into next week before it gets absorbed in this frontal system that moves from the northeast coast. And I will tell you here over the United States, especially over the northeast and general north central United States, quite the amount of cold weather that's going to come up here over the next week. Very, very, very below normal temperatures across a good chunk of the entire eastern U.S. pretty much, especially the Northeast. And I guess it's going to be the result of a very active front pattern setting up over the East Coast. And then obviously that's going to help boot this thing well out to sea. So at least in terms of tropical impacts directly on the United States, we won't have to worry about, at least for the foreseeable short-term future. And then you see here the energy here with 99L, which is in the MDR. That then moves into the Caribbean. And the GFS doesn't do much. Seems like it moves into the Caribbean and gets involved and entangled in some sort of energy here that the GFS shows here in the Southern Caribbean, and then it doesn't really develop much over the next week. But I do want to bring you to the GEFS ensembles because that actually does look pretty interesting. And let me actually bring you the 6E run because the 12Z is not really loaded yet. But at least on the 6E run, I want you to pay very close attention to 90L here as it progresses into the Caribbean. You can see this is where the ensembles for 90L, 99L, because this is 90L. So 99L here is the area in the Caribbean. And as you notice, especially as we progress into late next week, there are definitely a number of ensembles that begin showing up here on the GEFS. So I think there is some sort of signal here that we might need to watch 99L as it progresses into the Caribbean. And I've been saying, and I've said this before, number one thing to look out for, especially as we are now in the peak of the season, just because something that does not develop in the MDR doesn't mean that it can get going further west. And the GEFS definitely seems to have a signal here, and it's definitely associated with 99L as we head into late next week of seemingly something that tries to ignite here in the Caribbean. It's not a huge signal, and we're obviously going to have to watch over the next several model runs to see if it grows. But I do want to bring you once again to the sea surface temperature anomaly map, and just look at how warm things are across the entire tropical Atlantic, and especially focusing in here on the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. Sea surface temperature anomalies are at least a degree Celsius on average throughout the entire Caribbean. So we pretty much have jet fuel here in the Western Atlantic, and it's just only a matter of time before something is able to get into this region and take full advantage of all of the warmth that we have here. And we saw that literally off the East Coast here in the southwestern Atlantic with Aaron. One storm that was able to get into the Western Atlantic, and it absolutely exploded into a Category 5. And obviously, as a result of that, it took out quite a bit of energy and warmth from the ocean here, as especially large hurricanes typically do. Although I will say, watch over the next 2 days because this might be cold now off the East Coast here, but trust me, especially since we're still in late August and we are still in the full force of the summer rays from the sun, this is going to warm up very, very quickly over the next week or so, and it's going to be like there was never anything that chipped away at any of these warm sea surface temperature anomalies here just off the East Coast. But in the meanwhile, the MDR as a whole is still very, very warm, especially here right off the west coast of Africa, just northeast of the Cabo Verde Islands. Man, is it warm. And we're in August 22nd, well, today, August 23rd, but this map is from yesterday because this NOAA Coral Reef watch map always tends to be a day behind, but that doesn't really matter, honestly. But we're still in late August. We're not even into the month of September yet, so things are just getting started with the peak of the hurricane season. And I'll show you as well with the Climate Prediction Center, their tropical weather hazards only gets more active in the Atlantic. This is for late August. They have a hatched area here in the MDR. So maybe as we head into next week, we might have to watch for something else in the MDR to spin up. But this really caught my eye. This is week 3 for the first full week of September here. From September 3rd to September 9th, we have a hatched area here in the MDR, and the Climate Prediction Center seems to hint at a development area in the Caribbean. So the Caribbean seems like it's going to get more favored over the next several days or the next several weeks. And could 99L be the start of that? We'll have to see. But all I'm saying is do not take your eyes off of 99L. And it just screams of something that might catch us by surprise later on. And again, it is late August. It's August 23rd. We are just getting into the peak of the season. And this time of year, you have to watch for anything that might develop, because anything that can will try. So we'll see what happens with 99L. But in the meanwhile, we have to track 90L as well, since that'll probably be Fernand, although it will more than likely say a weak storm out to sea, except for maybe some potential impacts to Bermuda. But I'll continue to update you that on the coming days. But with that being said, not much else to go over for today's video. So I'm going to end it off here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. And of course, I'll be back with more tomorrow.